And thank you very much for staying with us here on the JoyNews channel. This is PM Express. Tonight, the KNUST impasse pulling from the brink. There's a lot has happened since the last time we had this discussion on the show. It all started on October 25th, you remember, when a peaceful protest by students on the KNUST campus somehow turned violent. So we had the Regional Security Council meet, and then they decided to impose a curfew. But also subsequently to that, then we heard about, of course, the closure of the university. Also, we heard also subsequently the KNUST Governing Council has been dissolved and replaced with a 7-member interim Governing Council to oversee the reopening of the university in 14 days. This moved very quickly because it's pretty unfolding and fluid situation on KNUST campus. The interim KNUST Council was to determine the fate of the Vice-Chancellor, and this was the most controversial point for many, including stakeholders in this whole back and forth between students, management, teachers, and government. But then what happens after this became one of the key issues? The interim KNUST Council, as we know, then proceeded to try and attempt to fix the problem. They went ahead in an attempt to fix the problem, but UTAG striked because UTAG was unhappy with that decision to, in essence, hang the Vice-Chancellor. And so they took a series of steps to try and fix this problem. The Ashanti Regional Chapter of UTAG embarked on a strike. This is on a KNUST campus, by the way, and asked politicians to go and teach in the classrooms if the politicians will not stop interfering in the work of KNUST. That snowballed until the National Council for Tertiary Education, NCTE, asked the Vice-Chancellor to step aside. They wrote a letter to him last week, Thursday, that he should hand over temporarily the day-to-day running of the school to the Pro-Vice-Chancellor. Now, subsequent to that, meetings have been called, we know today, that is planned to deal with this matter. TIL members, supported by UTAG, well, UTAG says that they were not part of the protest today, but there was a protest by TIL. That's the Teacher and Education Workers Union. They went onto the streets in KNUST today to protest what they believe to be government interference in all that has happened since. Now, the minority members today have held a press conference, and they want the Education Minister removed because they believe the Education Minister has obviously played a role in all this. Where we are right now is a government issuing a statement after meeting with the various stakeholders, UTAG to be very specific, asking that a substantive council of KNUST be reconstituted by this Friday. We'll be interrogating where we are, but most importantly, how do we pull for the brink? That's today's resolution, solve the issues. But most importantly, how do you resolve that fundamental question of converting the all-male halls into mixed halls, which is really, many say, what's the trigger? We'll be interrogating all that after the break here on PM Express. Stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us here on PM Express. My guest in the studio, when he was in KNUST, he was known short as BNI. Always wondered why he was called BNI. But he's a former SRC president of the KNUST. Why did they call you BNI, by the way?
My initials, Boachinyamiche Isaac.
So Boachinyamiche Isaac. And so you sort of just use the BNI because it's a very catchy phrase when you were campaigning on campus.
Yes.
Great. Okay. So Boachinyamiche is my guest in the studio. We'll be joined by, in fact, we are joined right now on Skype by the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Allied and Health Sciences, is Professor John Japon. Remember that the Vice-Chancellor of KNUST. He's a member of this particular group, the Vice Chancellor's Ghana, and they have a key stake in all that has unfolded today. We have some clarity as far as the Vice Chancellor's future is concerned. Professor Japon, thank you for your time here on PM Express. Hello, Prof. Can you hear me, sir?
But I think it should be a collective decision.
Hello, Professor Japon. Can you hear me, sir? Okay, we'll try and rectify the challenge with our system there and go to Professor Japon shortly and hear his take on this. So tell me, what's your reaction to what has happened today? I mean, you obviously, because you are a former alumni of the school, were you in Katanga?
No, Unity Hall.
Unity Hall, but one of the affected halls.
Yes.
You've heard all that has happened. Today there was a meeting with UTAG. And the conclusion from there essentially is that the school will be reopened next week, I think 8th of November. But the Vice Chancellor will return to the new governing council, which will be constituted by Friday. What's your reaction to that?
First of all, I think that nobody could have predicted that the events that have occurred over the past 1 week, because there was an appeal for a demonstration, and the intent of the demonstration was to be a peaceful one, to also send a message across. But government stepping in a bid to resolve the chaos ended up creating more chaos, and it's led to a lot of domino effect. And so we had a lot of issues coming up. I think that the resolutions that have come up today is what is actually best for the university, because all stakeholders involved in the matter from the start, if you listen to the position of the SRC, position of UTAG, position of management, they were willing to work with the internal mechanisms available to resolve the impasse. Government came in a bid to intervene, but at a point in time, you could feel that government was crying more than the bereaved. And if you look at some comments that were also coming from certain government operatives, you had the feeling that government did not have the credibility and the goodwill to be able to solve the problem, because it looked like government wanted a particular end. But for the students, most of them don't care what actually happens to Vice Chancellor or something. Most of them just want the issues that they had complained about and demonstrated about to be resolved. So I think that stepping in of the king, the Chancellor, today, and then the UTAG resolution, the SRC has also been on the grounds and speaking to the issues. I think that's what's best for the university now, so that students can return to academic work. You already mentioned that I am an alumnus of the university, but actually I'm pursuing my postgraduate studies.
So you're actually a student, still a student of the university? Okay, great.
So I'm affected by...
Were you there when this whole chaos started on last week?
Yes,
Monday?
I was hosting a show on Focus FM, so I was providing updates and following the issue. So I have quite a firm understanding of how everything got to this point. Yes.
I'll come back to you and ask you what you make of the VC's return. Now, let me go onto the phone line. Let me go onto Skype and speak to Professor Japon with the Vice Chancellor's Ghana. Thank you, Professor Japon, for joining us here on PM Express. So tell me, what's your reaction to today's events? I mean, one major thing happened, the meeting with the UTAG, and the government has issued a statement, we know, in which they have announced that by Friday, a substantive governing council of KNUST will be in place, and the Vice Chancellor will be part of that council going forward. Your reaction to that?
Well, thank you very much for having me. This is what we were looking for. We were asking who is rolling in. He recognized that the university has all structures that are part to ensure that there is peace when there are grievances. There are mechanisms for addressing. So we understand that there was chaos initially on the campus. And for that reason, it was appropriate for government to step in to protect life and property. And actually, for our understanding, it was the management of the university in consultation with the Regional Security Council that decided to close down the university. That was appropriate to given the destruction of that took place, and there were reports of arson and all that. So we think that was the right thing. However, going pulling things together and trying to bring things to normalcy, we opinion that constitution of the interim council had some effects, and we said to draw the attention of government and NCT to that issue. I'm happy that there's been a resolution of it, and we now have a situation where the chancellor is being asked to facilitate the constitution of the council according to the statutes of the university. This is what we're calling for. So I think it's the right direction. Ghana is the winner as far as I'm concerned.
We know that the chancellor played a central role in this, and from the statement we got from government, he's going to lead the process of reconstituting the new council. I'm just wondering, and that's, I guess, a gray area. I mean, you understand the law that gives the council the powers. What role has a chancellor in the process of constituting a governing council for the university, for example?
I have not read the statutes of KNUST.
Okay.
The ones I know best are University of Ghana, sometime, and the University of Northern. But I dare say that since University of Ghana is a premier university, almost all the acts and statutes are derived one way or the other from the University of Ghana statute. So they are not very different. The acts and statutes require that government appoints a chair of the council and then also nominates another 3 or 4 people depending on the university. It varies from one university to the other. And then the vice chancellor is a member of the council. Then there is representation from convocation. So convocation meets and finds a way of selecting normally 2 people to represent them. I know that in the University of Ghana, we have a way to reach an agreement. For instance, you have 2 representatives of convocation, and convocation is made up of mainly academics, the senior administrator. If we were to just go there and vote, because the academics outnumber the administrators, then the administrators never get representation on the council. So we have a gentleman's agreement that if it's 2, let's have 1 from the academics and 1 from the administrator. So we have a way of selecting good representatives. Then there is UTAC representation, FUSAC, EU, the Alumni Association, and the practice has also been that in addition to these people, council can decide that if they need some expertise to help in managing the council, they can bring on board some other expertise to help in the running of the university. So there are processes for getting this done. My expectation is that government is basically asking the chancellor, who is the head of the university, to facilitate this process. That is my understanding.
And let's go to the root of this problem, which is when this is where we started hearing of disagreement between the students and management, the vice chancellor on the other side, which is the problem of trying to convert the the mixed, the single-sex halls into mixed halls, which really are the heart of the problem. But also, the students claim that they were being brutalized, whilst the management looked on unconcerned. This will be a big task for this new governing council to address. How can they go about fixing that problem? Because already, what has led us to this point is a breakdown in trust between management and the students. In fact, there have been suggestions that where was the council, the previous council, when all this was going on? What's your own, how do you expect this new council to address this problem going forward?
Yeah, actually, when it comes to what triggered all these issues, people have different perspectives of what it is that exactly triggered issues. There's been issues about brutalities from the campus security, also issues about high-handedness of the management, the vice chancellor in particular has cited. It's the issue of the mixed hall. In fact, it's so interesting that the students are saying that the mixed hall issue, as far as they were concerned, was behind them. So that was not the immediate cause. For your information, I'm an alumnus of KNUST as well.
Oh, I see.
I have an interest. And I was GCR president of Republic Hall from 1982 to 1984.
Yeah.
So when people talk about traditional male, my question is, which are the traditional male? When I went to KNUST in 1980, only Africa Hall had females. And then there was a Queen's Hall crisis. We had problems. And then later on, the female population started increasing. So some were put in Queen's Hall. Initially, it was only Queen's Hall Annex. Then eventually, the whole of Queen's Hall became a mixed hall. Then they came to Republic Hall. And then they went to Independence Hall. So this is something that is being in progress, work in progress. And indeed, at the time that Republic Hall was being converted to a mixed hall, I had left campus. And my understanding is that the current Minister of Education was then the SRC president. And there were discussions and debates, and all of them understood that the female population was increasing. So until we built more halls of residence, there was no way there was going to be any transposition of traditional male. Because as far as I'm concerned, Republic Hall is a traditional male hall. So I think the students have basically understood that that change is really intense. My work has been the role alumni of the two halls have played in this whole process. So we need to, in my opinion, engage and ask ourselves, what is the role of alumni in university growth development? I think that we need to interrogate that issue very carefully. The students say that is not their major problem. Their major problem is student brutality and high-handedness, university administration. So the issues are addressed, and I heard SRC president saying that they've had some concessions on these issues. I said in one of the interviews that the briefing I had received from the university also stated that none of these issues had been tabled by the SRC at council. So I think there is some gap somewhere, and we need to talk and address these issues. Every issue that comes up needs to be discussed. As management, you need to engage your faculty, you need to engage your students, and you need to engage your TEU, SAG, and all of them. So they're all interested parties in management of the university. So we need some understanding. But students need to know that when you have a problem and you come for a discussion, sometimes it is possible to make concessions. But there are some issues that it's just not feasible to make concessions on. So if there are 10 issues on the table and management is able to make concessions with you on 5 of them, which is going to help in to advance the cause of the university, then we'll make a win.
Yeah.
So I think we need two heads at this. I think the right thing has been done to reconstitute a council according to the act and statutes, and let's allow the council go ahead and do what it has to do, because the statutes have all what it takes to manage the university.
To fix it, and that really is where we are with this. Another thing we need to try and get to the bottom of is, and really it's a case of a breakdown in trust, as we've seen, Isaac Boache. And this new interim council must win back the trust of the students once it's formed, which is really fundamental going forward. The students sort of have lost trust at a point in the management's ability to protect them, first of all, but also seek their welfare, right? I'll come to you to give me your take on how that can be resolved. But I also have on the telephone line with us right now is the president of TEU on the KNUST campus, Mr. Charles Arthur. Thank you, Mr. Arthur, for your time here on PM Express.
Thank you.
Great. You protested today on the KNUST campus quite vehemently. In fact, you had served notice that you'll be protesting every day until the Vice Chancellor is reinstated. We've heard the announcement tonight that he's going to be on the new council that is going to be in place by Friday. Does that address your concern?
Yes, but thank you very much. Yes, but let me say that when we had a meeting with His Majesty Otumbo to the Chancellor of Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, he said that he met with Professor Kusijanka and the National Security Minister, and then he directed that the government can take its member from the council, but the government cannot say that everybody is dissolving. As a result of that, it's only the government who is bringing its members to come and add to the already existing. So we shouldn't create the impression that the old has been dissolved and new is coming. There's no old, there's no new. Okay. That must be clear.
So let's just to clarify, what you're saying is so fundamental that what is going to happen by Friday is that government will simply replace their members on the previous governing council. Every other member on the council will remain on the council.
Exactly the same. If the members of that particular constituency decide to change, fine. But if the members of that constituency say no, the government cannot impose on the members the person that they want, the government wants to put on the council. It cannot be, because nobody is dictating for government to change or to bring this particular people onto the council. If the government wishes, you understand, and the people that he thinks that he after that he's bringing on the council. So we need not to create the impression so that tomorrow, if it is not MPP and then this was CPP come, they're also going to do the same. This is what we are trying to protect, and this is what we are trying to prevent, because this is a state institution, and therefore it needs the protection of everyone in this country.
That's fascinating. And did Otumfo say how he's going to resolve the fundamental concerns around the conversion of the halls, and also the students claim that they have been brutalized?
Actually, His Majesty told us that we should not apportion blame, and he himself, as the chancellor of the university, is going to establish a committee using retired judges and giving them 1 month for them to come and go. He is interested in the matter that arises, and then he wants the judges to go into detail and give him the detail, because to his he cannot, he's still not believing that students of KNUST can do what has happened.
So are you calling off your strike and series of demonstrations?
Yes, it's a reciprocal process. His Majesty, the Chancellor, Otumpo Osetutu, has spoken. He's the Chancellor of the university. The Chancellorship used to be the head of state, so he's like the head of state. So he has spoken, and we all know that he's also a great king. So once he has spoken and said that he's going to resolve the issue, then we must assist him and give him that due respect. As a result of that, tomorrow we'll talk to our members what we heard from Malaysia, and then we'll bring it to an end and look at what will happen Friday, and then we'll move it from there.
Okay. Going forward, though, there is, and this is really at the heart of the bigger question. The teachers, and you belong to TEU, so that's the Teachers and Education Workers Union, the lecturers, the management, and the student. There must be a rebuilding of trust. There must be a certain committed effort to rebuilding trust across the table. What is your own commitment to do that? Because that is where, I guess, this whole thing started from. The students lost faith in the leadership, and they decided they should take the law into their own hands.
My brother, have you seen the way two goats, have you seen the way they fight?
Tell me about it.
Well, if you have seen them, for them, they will just go out, and then you look at them as if they're coming to crash themselves. Then they will go back, and they will not do that. So if you're outside, you think that they are coming to crash, and that will not be the situation. That is the way coming to my universities happen. We know ourselves as students and as workers. And in fact, in coming to my University of Science and Technology, the workers, and for that matter, the lecturers and senior most administrators are local apprentices. Local apprentices mean that they stand in for the parents as to why they are teaching, as to why senior administrators are in charge of the management of the university, because they have gone through the university system. So outsiders are seeing things different. What outsiders are hearing is different from what is inside. That's why His Majesty says that we should not apportion blame and wait until the committee will finally come out. But I am telling you that the committee will come out with different reports, a different thing altogether that has nothing to do with students that don't have trust or in management or lecture. I'm telling you.
Well, I'm grateful that you joined us. That is the president of TEU on the KNUST campus. He is Charles Arthur. Isaac, you just heard that, and something he said that struck me. He made the point that this interim council, this new council that will be formed, it's not like it's going to start from scratch. The previous council that was dissolved by government will, in essence, be in place. If government decides to remove its nominees and appointees onto the council, so be it. But everybody else is going to be there, which means the VC, as we've had confirmed, is going to be back on the council. And I know the student had lost trust or faith in the vice chancellor. What's your reaction to this as a student yourself of KNUST?
I think it's a stretch to say that the students had lost trust in the vice chancellor, because if you read the communiques of the SRC, the first one they released, they spent an entire paragraph speaking about why they believe that none of their reliefs seek to remove the vice chancellor. Even over the weekend, that's why the SRC president made another release requesting that government takes a second look at the establishment, at the establishment of the IMC. And so I believe that there can be a working relationship between the student leadership and then management, because even if you look at my intelligence tells me that on Saturday, before the demonstration, there was a meeting between Vice Chancellor and then the SRC and other management members. So that relationship has been there. But going forward, I think even the harshest critics of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Bridan, so will tell you that he has brought a lot of progress to the university. But there should also be a more listening approach to the situation, and because there are different kinds of progress that you could bring to an institution, and when it comes to funds for the university, when it comes to infrastructural development for the university, everybody believes he has done very well. So, but the other kinds of progress, ones that have to do with culture, like how the university runs, do you get it? Those are the things where people have challenges with. That's why the whole conversion has been a major issue. And I think that in forming the committee that will look into the matters, His Majesty Otumfuo 82, must really make that a key point in seeking to revert the conversion of the halls, because
So that's what, as a student, that's what you want to see. Reverse
yes,
that decision.
I think the decision must be reversed, because if you look at the numbers, I mean, obviously, I heard from Professor Japon that when the numbers, female numbers are growing, then obviously there must be some change. But I had the opportunity to interview the university relations officer on admission policies, among other things. There was just a marginal increase in the number of female students that had gained admission in the halls. So it was just about 39% to 40%. Yeah. So if you would have such marginal increase, is it worth it to have this level of disgust, anger from the student body on the decision to convert the halls? But also, I think that as alumni, we also have to come in to play a role to ensure that we are able to help the university solve the accommodation issues, because I think that the Vice Chancellor has begun the building of 2 new hostel facilities. But if the alumni also comes in to also help construct more facilities, support the university with funding and endowments, among other things.
So you belong to the school of thought that says the solution to dealing with the policy of increased female enrollment is not to convert single-sex halls into mixed halls,
to build more accommodation.
but to build more,
Yes,
more
because
accommodation.
For how long would you seek to convert?
Yeah.
Do you get it? Because the numbers will continue to grow. And also, we have to review our ways of learning. I think over time we would look into that, because you realize that as the university continues to grow, virtual learning is what must take place ahead of everybody just coming to campus, getting a hostel and staying there, among other things. But as it stands, the solution would not be to convert. I believe that it would always be to build more in the status quo and then get things working.
I still have with me on the line Professor Japon with the Vice Chancellor's Ghana and also the Vice Chancellor of University of Health and Allied Sciences. Professor Japon, we saw today a statement from the NCTE, the National Council for Tertiary Education, to the Vice Chancellor of KNUST, Professor Obiri, asking him to hand over the day-to-day administration of KNUST to the Pro-Vice Chancellor. And I know he's a member of your association. Does that mean that as we speak right now, the Vice Chancellor is no longer in charge of the day-to-day, and that the VC is in charge of running the university at least until Friday? Is that your understanding of that letter?
Well, I was a little confused about that letter was. I heard the Honorable it's Minister for Information. They comments and they try to explain that letter. I want to take from him. He said the Vice Chancellor was sacked, and as well as nothing has changed. So we think that nothing has changed.
Okay, so what it means is that, and just to repeat the point you made about the Information Minister Dexon, who spoke to me on Top Story on radio, his point is that the Vice Chancellor had not been sacked. He simply had been asked temporarily to hand over day-to-day to the Pro-VC. But then again, if you hand over day-to-day administration to somebody else, what is left for a VC to do? What does VC do? VCs are responsible for the day-to-day administration of the university. I mean, impliedly, he's been out to step aside. I mean, you can play semantics with it. I mean, but I'm asking.
Yeah, but I guess if you heard him again, he said that had also been overtaken by events.
Events, yes.
Looking at the situation with the aftermath of the meeting
today,
Otumfuo and all that, he basically implied that we are back to status quo.
Back to square one.
And as the TAU representative said, yes, we are reconstituting council. Everybody brings their representative. So if TAU decides that they are sending back their original representative, nobody has any qualms about it. And I can imagine that the new council have all the original representatives, except probably for government, who may want to change their nominees of council.
Okay. Prof, kindly hold the line briefly for me. Let me speak to the former Deputy Education Minister, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, who joins us on the phone right now. Mr. Ablakwa, thank you for the time here on PM Express. What's your reaction to the latest development? I know the minority held a press conference today in which you had called for the heads of the education ministry, in fact, the education minister and the minister responsible for tertiary education, within the context of their previous backing of that very controversial policy to convert the single sex to mixed sex halls. And you had made the point that if the VC is going to go because of that, then he should also go. But we know that where we are now, that has been overtaken by events with the current decision of government to reconstitute the substantive council for the KNUST. Does that address the concerns that the minority had raised at all, this latest development?
Well, good evening, Evans, and good evening to your panel. Let me also extend my regards to my very good friend, Professor John Japon, on the other line, and say good evening to all our viewers. For us in the minority, our primary concern is the return to normalcy, how we can quickly resolve these matters so that our students can be back on campus, so that the agitations going on within UTAG, FUSAG, GAWA, and the concern by VCG, all of these important stakeholders will be at ease, and they will be allowed to focus on their core mandate. That is our primary concern. We are also primarily concerned about the bad precedent which was set, where the Constitution of Ghana was put aside, Article 70, Article 21, 1B, flagrantly violated. The NCT Act at 454 just put aside, and academic freedom was clearly under attack. The autonomy and independence of our institutions, the statutes of our universities was totally disregarded. We didn't want this precedent to be tolerated and become the new normal, especially after we saw similar traits in the University of Education Winneba episode and the Ghana Institute of Journalism and the University, the Cape Coast Polytechnic saga. We saw principal officers being removed without following due process. So we are glad that the Otumfuo Osetutu II, the Chancellor, put his foot down, agreed with all of us who said that, look, the Vice Chancellor, the government was being high-handed and was setting aside the laws of our country and assaulting the autonomy and independence of our institutions. And so he insisted that the right thing be done. We have to commend government that they have finally eaten humble pie, and they are learning lessons. We believe that moving forward, lessons have to be learned. Let the University Council and the structures within KNUST be allowed to operate. Let them then set up an independent committee of inquiry to look into the matters. It is our view, and this is a view we hold strongly, that all of these matters could have been avoided if there was proactive leadership right from the top. The Ministry of Education, as far back as February this year, they were petitioned by the student leaders, alumni. We even demonstrated to the ministry. What did they do? The president himself was petitioned by the alumni. When he interacted with the Ghanaian community last month at the sidelines of the UN General Assembly meeting, this matter came up. He said that it will be looked into. So it does appear that we all, and I mean that the government and the authorities did not show the proactiveness that we expected them to show. But I'm not interested really at this point in belaboring the point and crying over spilled milk. But how do we quickly pick up the pieces, carry out the assessment, and decide how we are going to repair the damage that has been caused to property, that has been caused to the time there was an assessment of damage in a similar situation at the University of Ghana in 1984, it cost the Ghana's taxpayers $4 million, 10.6 million cedis at the time. I'll be interested to know the cost of damage when the assessment is done. I'll be interested, most importantly, in what are the causes of this whole imbroglio, and how quickly can recommendations be made, lessons learned, so that moving forward we don't get here again. Because we have come a long way so far as higher education in Ghana is concerned.
What do you expect the new governing council that we're expecting by Friday to do about this whole controversy surrounding the conversion of the halls?
Well, first of all, I'm not expecting a really new council. If you look at Act 80, the council of the KNUST, it's largely institutional reps. Government may decide to change the 4 reps, which includes the chairman of the council. But my prediction is that all the other institutions would send the same people who represented them.
And your prediction is right, because we heard from two
methods of convocation, UTAG,
yes,
the SRC. Yeah. So
your prediction is right, because we heard from the TEU rep who says this is exactly what's going to happen. All the other groups will maintain their reps on the council, and if government feels they want to change there, they should go ahead and change theirs, but they will just return all their members on the previous council that was dissolved.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I predicted it correctly. So what the council, because when an act is considered unlawful, we can't even say that it's a new council. I mean, when the council gets to work unimpeded, I expect that they would immediately set up the special committee, and it shouldn't be like the IMC. The infamous INC, which had 4 members from the council, people who are already interested parties. No, let's have an independent committee, not made up of people who were implementing the policy. It should be people removed from the implementation, preferably. And I recall that there have been instances like the John Daniel Commission at the University of Ghana. It was made up of outsiders, so that they come with a fresh perspective. They are neutral. They are not persons who played any role, so that they can really make far-reaching recommendations. And I do hope that the recommendations will be implemented. Mind you, this university is a public university. If you look at the act, then perhaps it is even time to appeal to KNUST to amend its act, because it's still the 1961 act. The University of Ghana and other universities have amended their act. The University of Ghana is a 2010 act. And if you look at the University of Ghana Act, their annual report comes to Parliament through the ministry, through the NCT and the Ministry of Education. With the KNUST Act, they are just to publish, make their report, their annual report, known to the general public. The challenge there is that, you see, if you are not reporting to Parliament, then you cannot expect Parliament to really support you and insist that the executive, because we carry out oversight over the executive. So if you need certain things, you need the executive to implement certain things that you expect from the executive. Then Parliament is in the picture, and we can insist. We have an assurances committee that will insist that the demand from government is met. But under the current act, which some of us have been nudging KNUST behind the scenes to amend, they just have to publish it to the general public. And with that, really, the Parliament can look the other way. And I don't even recall the last time that KNUST published its annual report. And it's one of the concerns that I have raised with them in time past. So I do hope that lessons will be learned, and there will be far-reaching recommendations, even about sections of the Act and the statutes that will strengthen the independence of the institution, and to bring it abreast to modern practices, as some of the sister universities have done in recent times.
Yeah, and very quickly, you still, in the wake of all the developments, is the call for the heads of the education minister and the tertiary education minister still necessary at this point?
At this point, that the vice chancellor has been restored and is being allowed to carry out his work, we will not press that option. Remember that we stated clearly that if the vice chancellor should take the fall because of that policy and the implementation of that policy, then it is only fair that the ministers of education, Dr. Matthew Puku Prempe, who on July 15 at the 52nd congregation endorsed the policy, 8th September, Professor Yanka, Minister of State in charge of tertiary education, also endorsed the policy and called upon other universities to emulate Professor Obridamso's bold example, his own words, quoting him verbatim. If Professor Obridamso, the Vice Chancellor, should go, then it's only logical and fair that they must also go with him. But now that he's staying, we think that they can also, we are not interested in anybody losing his job or anybody really going home. What we want is solution. How do we de-escalate? How do we come up with recommendations that are far-reaching, that will prevent this? And how do we see proactive leadership that protects the sanctity of our institutions, protects academic freedom, entrenches the autonomy of our institutions, and at the end of the day guarantees a very congenial learning atmosphere that continues to make our universities the pride of place.
I'm grateful that you joined us, the former Deputy Education Minister Samuel Kudeta Blacko. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll be wrapping up with lessons from all this. So live here on PM Express is on the JoyNews channel. On the phone, on Skype with us right now is Professor Japon. Professor Japon, what lessons should we draw from this? Because it's one of those teachable moments, I guess, for both government, but from the likes of yourself, Vice Chancellors, and all the stakeholders. What are the key lessons as a country we should be drawing for this for our tertiary education sector?
Well, I think there are a number of lessons that we can learn from this whole event. First of all, if you take it, yes, France, you can see clearly that the students were not very happy with the so-called high-handedness of the administrators, and coupled with so-called brutalities.
Okay.
I need.
Unfortunately, Prof, we're just having a challenge with the Skype line there, unfortunately. But I want to say a big thank you to you for agreeing to talk to us tonight. A lot has happened in the last 24 hours on this very matter. Isaac, so for you as a student, but also former leader, what lessons? Because the students have to play a significant role going forward if this is going to, get KNUST back to what it used to be before the riots.
I think we must be guided by history. In previous times when the student leadership has attempted to lead such protests, in the end the leadership front has been divided, and so they have not really achieved their ends. I think everybody must now back the SRC strongly. Over the past, I think yesterday I read some media fracas between the local KNUST chapter of the student leadership and the SRC presidency. I think it should never be repeated. The SRC remains the sole mouthpiece of students, and everybody must back the SRC president now. I'm
grateful that you joined us. That's Isaac there. He is, of course, known most popularly as BNI. I'm grateful that you joined us. Professor Japon was on Skype, as well as the former Deputy Education Minister and the two presidents. My name is Evans Mensah. Enjoy your evening.